Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with another brand new Jurassic World release. As you can see, a Legacy Collection release. We've got ourselves the Giganotosaurus versus Therizinosaurus. Now, what this also is part of the Jurassic World Reimagined line, which is a very fun line that I am a very big fan of because, I really quite enjoy anything that's sort of like a throwback to older stuff. So, really excited about this release because I think the Giga looks super cool, and it's the first time we've had a decent Giganotosaurus in like a mainline style version, and we've got a brand new version of the Therizinosaurus as well, which is very, very cool. As far as the packaging goes, you can see it looks pretty nice. You've got a nice shot there kind of like the final battle scene, it looks like, of Jurassic World Dominion, so that's pretty fun. Over here on the side, you've got the logo there kind of covered up with a sticker, the Reimagined logo, and then if we actually turn it around to the back, even though it's very clearly sideways, that is some super, super cool artwork. I am absolutely going to have to take the back off of this box and keep it. I don't plan on keeping the entire box, but that artwork absolutely has to stay here with me because that is really cool, and I like the fact that they've taken basically like the, renders of the two dinosaurs from Dominion, but given them the colors that you see on the figures that we have in the box. And I do apologize for not standing it up because it is super tall, so it's probably not going to work too well, but if we bring it up, you can see again how super impressive that art is on the box. That is absolutely awesome. So let's open this box and check these out. So here are the figures now out of the box and definitely looking really cool. I think the Giganotosaurus looks really cool. The Therizinosaurus actually also looks really cool, but it's actually a lot smaller than I was expecting, which is surprising. Definitely smaller than the previous, older Therizinosaurus figures. But I'm going to go ahead and take a look at each one individually. So let's remove one and then take a look at that and move on to the other. So we'll begin with the Giganotosaurus, and you can see that one does look pretty nice. I actually thought that the head sculpt might be a new head sculpt from Mattel, but now actually looking at it here, I think it might just be the same head sculpt that we had for the older one, because as you can see, it's really wide and awkward looking, which is, pretty much the standard issue that I had with the original Giganotosaurus, outside of the horrible action feature that it had. But it does still have that really wide and kind of awkward head sculpt. The fine detail, though, is definitely really quite nice. You can see some scars and stuff here on the face. The primary body color is a greenish tone. You have an orangish eye and then a black pupil with a nice gloss coat. We also have a light gray for the lower jaw, and then that kind of stripes up there into the face. We do have an articulated jaw, and both the upper and lower jaws articulate, which is definitely very cool. Inside the mouth, we've got the tongue sculpted out, nicely textured, painted with a pink tone of color. Same deal for the upper side of the inside of the mouth, and as you can see, you can swallow figures like you usually can when it comes to some of these, Real Feel dinosaur figures, and then you do, of course, have that little opening in the stomach, which is very Kenner-like as far as that goes. But you also can see the teeth look really nice. We have those much newer, sharper teeth from Mattel, which are always a treat on any of their newer figures, and they are, of course, quite flexible, so they're not dangerous or anything like that, and they are colored with a light yellowish sort of a tone. The mouth does seem to open a little bit, like as you can see, when I close it, it kind of pops back open, so it doesn't close all the way perfectly. As you move back, and I know my camera's going to have a fit because this thing is green, but as you move back, you can see we have pretty much the standard Giganotosaurus sort of detailing that you usually see on a Jurassic World style Giganotosaurus. We've got like the scoots moving down along the back, the ridges there following along the spinal column. We also have more of that light gray that kind of continues to stripe up into the body as we move down. We do have a little section of red there in the throat, which is really cool. Some nice scoots moving down the throat there, and then a bit of a finer type of scale detail here on the underside of the dinosaur. Again, this is a Real Feel figure, so you can move the body. It's got like that rubber to it, so you can move the head left and right, up and down, which is definitely fun. As we move down, the skin texture continues to look really nice. You have more scars and stuff as you move through. We continue to have, again, those like larger ridges moving along the back, the scoots and everything looking really good. We do have arm articulation forward and back, but it can also move out away from the body really nicely. I actually really like that. And they did a good job of kind of concealing the area that kind of shows off that articulation, because, you know, you can't hide it. Not all Mattel figures have that so well hidden, so I really like that as well. Moving down, we've got the muscle definition of the arms very nicely shown off. Nice scoots down the fingers. The entire arm is a light gray, and unfortunately no painted claws, but they have a pretty decent look to them, kind of a genuine sharp look to them. A little bit of a gloss coat as well. As we continue to move down, it is nice to see that light tone moving along the underside as far as it's going here. We also have more really impressive scale detail moving down through the thigh, more of the light tone moving into the green on the front of the thigh. The muscle definition shown off beautifully. The scars and injuries and everything moving down also look really good. You can see the kneecap in the front of the leg, the calf muscle in the back, and as you can see, that light gray actually moves all the way down there through the leg, down basically moving almost into the ankle. And as you lead down, you can see the foot sculpt looks really good. You've got some nice scoots down the toes. There is even a little speckling to the figure, which also adds a little extra coloration to it. And the claws are painted down here on the foot, which is really nice. You've got a nice dark gray with a gloss coat, and unfortunately no paintwork for the dew claw. But articulation wise, you can see forward and back, pretty much the standard leg articulation, which is actually pretty smooth. There's also a little wiggle room out away from the body, and you don't see that very often when it comes to figures like this, which is also nice. And you as well have a swivel in the ankle. And then as you move up, you can see we still actually have that rubber real feel all the way out to this point. We also actually have that light gray all the way out to this point, and that continues to stripe up into the body, but does disappear as we lead out into the tail, sadly. But then as you move out into the tail, you basically have just the greenish tone with the speckling and everything, and your standard, again, Giganotosaurus style detailing with the scoots and the ridges along the back, as well as the nice skin texture and everything. As you move out, it does remain that rubber real feel the entire way, and you do have a wire tail, which is awesome. Absolutely love that part. And I really like that we do have an articulated jaw on this figure, because again, we didn't have one on the Carnotaurus, so it is nice to see the articulated jaw on the rubber real feel figures return for the Giga. But as you can see, the detailing and everything is pretty much the same on the other side. No real differences from one side to the other. It is a really nice looking Giganotosaurus though, and also look at the feet. The feet are actually much more proportionate, which is something Mattel has been doing a lot more on their newer figures, which again, as you can see, it still stands perfectly and looks so much better. Also, before I forget, there is the Fax app code in case you would like to add that one to your collection. Then we've got the Therizinosaurus. Now, unfortunately, I thought this one was going to potentially be a real feel figure as well, but it is definitely not. You can see the head sculpt, though, is pretty much the standard Therizinosaurus head sculpt that we've had from Mattel in the past. I don't really see anything new or updated as far as that goes. And I would think the entire figure is pretty much the same Therizinosaurus as far as what we've had in the past as well, just smaller and very different paint apps. You can see that we've got kind of like a reddish brown for the primary body color, and this one also has a very strong speckling. Like, it is absolutely everywhere on this figure as you move through. You can really see it down here in the arms and everything. But you do of course have an articulated jaw, and it's just a straight up articulated jaw. No gimmick as far as that jaw goes. You have a nice light pinkish tone there for the inside of the mouth on the tongue. The upper side doesn't actually have the pink, but it's already kind of like a reddish brown, so it kind of meshes nicely in there. The teeth are all sculpted decently and painted with a yellowish tone, which also look really good. And then of course we have a gloss coat in there. As you move back, actually before you even move back, you can see the beak doesn't have any color, unfortunately, but you do have, again, kind of like some black that moves through the face right here. A nice green eye with a black pupil as well, which looks really good. But when you come up to the top, you start to pick up the black that moves down along the top of the dinosaur and continues to kind of stripe down. We also have the light tone that moves down along the underside of the throat of the Therizinosaurus. You do have really nice articulation right here, which can completely swivel around if you would like it to. It also goes up and down very nicely, and again moves pretty much any and everywhere. That is super nice, very smooth articulation. As you move down through the neck, of course, we have more feathers up here on the top, skin texture here kind of on the side, and then continuing down to the underside, we have that light tone. We have more of the patterns that move down. We do have neck articulation right here, and again, just straight up neck articulation, which can swivel and move left and right, which you can see. Up from up above actually would probably be better. Left and right, up and down. So really, really nice articulation in the neck as well. You can actually get that head out pretty nicely there when it comes to the articulation of this one. But as we move down, we continue to have that light tone, again following down through the underside. We have more of the darker tones here on the top, but as you can see, that patterning starts to kind of break up. There's basically like stripes and big splotchy areas of it as you lead down. You can move down through the arm. You have arm articulation, but as you can see, they move together, so it's definitely part of the action feature. You can also move the arms out away from the body, and then as you move down, you've got more speckles. You do have the claws painted, and they do have a nice gloss coat, so they look really cool. Detailing looks pretty good. Musculature, some feathers and stuff all look really nice. More speckling the entire way down. You also have articulation in the wrists, it looks like. Yeah, there we go. So nice little forward and back motion there in the wrists, and also can swivel, which works pretty decent. Obviously, we've got a little button here for an action feature, and that would be the arms basically attacking, and that works pretty nicely. As you move back, you actually have some of those patterns kind of trailing off down here into the stomach. We continue to have that light tone moving down, but ending in like the groin area, unfortunately. It would have been nice to see it run the entire way out. As you lead up here to the top, though, the patterns do continue, and as you lead into the side of the dinosaur, we also have more of the patterns down here, which, again, you've got like a little bit more of that black leading down. Again, the feathers moving down to the front of the leg, some skin texture moving down along the back as you lead through. You've got some nice musculature from the thigh all the way down to the calf, and then the foot sculpt looking pretty good with some nice scoots down the toes, as well as more speckles, and you have painted claws again. Nice dark gray with a gloss coat, and we've got dew claws. Of course, unpainted, but at least they're sculpted. As far as the articulation of the legs, forward and back, pretty much exactly like we had on the Giganotosaurus, also out away from the body, and then you also have swivel ankles, again, just like we had on the Giga. And then as you move out, you do have a little bit more of that patterning leading out into the tail before it is gone completely as we lead through those really nicely sculpted feathers out there on the tail. Lots of speckles all over the place out here, though. Very different look for the underside with skin texture down here, and a little area of feathering running down the center of the underside of the tail, which actually looks pretty cool. Articulation-wise for the tail, up, down, left, right, and can swivel, so some pretty decent articulation out here. And again, pretty much the same thing you're going to see from one side to the other when it comes to this Therizinosaurus. But it is a pretty cool figure. I actually really quite like it. And then, of course, the FAQs app code again for you to add to your collection. But definitely a neat Therizinosaurus. And also, before I forget, we do actually have some sounds for the Giga, so let's go ahead and hear those. We got quite a few sounds for this one, and it's nice and loud. Actually sounds really good. As far as a size goes, for the Giganotosaurus, lengthwise from the snout to the tail, about 21, I'd say about 21.5 inches, maybe a hair over, or about 55 centimeters. And then for a height, now of course you can make it taller because it is posable with the legs, but a little over 8 inches, actually just shy of 8.25 inches, or a little bit under 21 centimeters. And then for the Therizinosaurus, lengthwise you are looking at, and of course you could make it longer, like if you actually put the head out there, now we can make it really long, about 14.25 inches or 36 centimeters. And if we put the head back up and get more of a natural height, about 8.25 inches or around 21 centimeters, pretty much on the dot for a size comparison. There is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day Human Being next to our Jurassic World Reimagined set here. And as you can see, both of these figures are significantly larger than everything else that we have here next to it. But I think the best comparisons I could probably give you would be with their, previously released versions. So let's go ahead and grab those. So here is the older, more like original size version of the Therizinosaurus next to the newer one. And as you can see, the newer one is significantly smaller than the older ones. So I actually thought that the newer one would be pretty much the same size as the older one, but very clearly you can see that is not the case. The newer one is a lot smaller. And just because I feel like someone will ask in the comment section, here is the Hammond Collection version of the Therizinosaurus, which you can see as well, again, is a whole lot larger. And just to give you one more idea of a size with a different type of a figure, here's a standard wild roar next to the Therizinosaurus, so you can see that the Therizinosaurus is at least larger than a wild roar. And then next up we have the original release of the Giganotosaurus that came out for Dominion, which you can see is pretty much the exact same size as this new Real Feel version. You can also see again how similar they are as far as their appearance goes, but of course how much better the teeth are on the newer one. But again, it is so nice to have that Giganotosaurus figure now in a sculpt that is uninterrupted with the horrible action features and stuff that we had on the older one. This newer Giganotosaurus is miles better, and if you wanted to repaint one of those type of figures, I highly recommend grabbing this newer version. Again, same size as the older one, just a whole lot nicer looking. And then even though they are awkwardly close, here is one comparison with my repainted Hammond Collection Giganotosaurus next to the new version, which again you can see that the Hammond Collection version is a whole lot larger, of course. And then one final comparison, we also have the very popular Lab Lockdown T-Rex next to the Giganotosaurus, showing you that the Giga is definitely a bit larger than the T-Rex. So this brand new Jurassic World Reimagined set is really cool, actually. Again, not everyone's gonna love it, and again, not everyone's gonna be a huge fan of it, but I actually really like it. I just love the fact that we finally have that Giganotosaurus sculpt in a way better, you know, first of all, figure as a whole, but just way better looking. Like there are no awkward action features in the midsection, nothing really breaking up the figure and making it look awful. It's just a straight up gorgeous looking version of the Mattel Giganotosaurus, of course with updates like the newer, more proportionate feet and way better looking teeth. The paint job as well is really cool, again very Kenner-like when it comes to like the old Dilophosaurus, and I of course love that aspect of the figure. And I think as a whole, everything detail wise looks great. The paint also looks really nice in general because it actually runs out onto the tail a little ways and everything. I wish we had painted claws and painted dew claws and maybe a little more of that lighter tone moving out into the tail, but it is what it is. I still think it looks really nice. You have fun action features with the ability to have it swallow dinosaurs, which I didn't demonstrate, but I think at this point we've had that so many times you know how it works. But again, we also have some really nice sounds. The Real Feel is awesome. It makes the dinosaur kind of, you know, really flexible so you can move it around, but it's just always really fun to have Real Feel dinosaurs, in my opinion. It has that strong Kenner feel to it when it comes to that aspect, and is just generally a gorgeous Giganotosaurus. Then you've got the Therizinosaurus, which is pretty cool as well. Again, it's not nearly as exciting, in my opinion, as the Giga is, but still pretty fun. It's a lot smaller than the older Therizinosaurus, so if you wanted a Therizinosaurus from Mattel in your collection that's not super huge like the others are, this is a good one to go with. It's got a pretty fun paint scheme to it as well that looks nice and, you know, is pretty nicely applied, and a fairly fun action feature, I guess, when it comes to a Therizinosaurus, and also again some nice smooth articulation. I wish it was kind of a Real Feel, but you know, when it comes to like feathers and stuff, I don't know how they would have achieved that. But either way, it is a really fun set, and I definitely recommend grabbing it. So if you are interested, I will include a link in the description to where you can purchase it on Target.com. So make sure you check that link, pick it up if you want it, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.